Hello and welcome to Creating Canon with your hosts AJ Hamilton and now Chassé Plié. Do it.
Yeah, I'm gonna now plie my chassis right across this recording studio.
Yes, indeed. And you looked beautiful doing it. Look at you.
Wow. Ow, ow, ow,
Oh,
ow, ow. Oh my god.
Charlie horse?
Yeah, I shouldn't stand anymore. That's what happens when I go from a sitting to a standing position.
I don't like standing in general.
My lord.
Hey, Nick. We are here with Creating Canon.
Wait, who? Because right now
I'm
they
sorry.
just think I'm...
All right. And Nicholas C. Pappas.
Yay!
The dancer. All right, Nick, so we watched a movie this week, like
Yes,
we do
did.
most of the time.
Yes, we did.
What did we watch?
We watched Dancers, the 1987 canon classic directed by Herbert Ross.
Nice.
Starring Mikhail Baryshnikov, like
I've heard of that guy.
the Mikhail Baryshnikov.
A lot of people have heard of that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the premier ballerinos in
Ballerino.
the world. Yeah.
So that's the male version of ballerina?
Yes, it is.
Oh, interesting.
Yes, it is.
I thought everybody was a ballerina.
I like saying ballerino because it always gets a look out of like, wait, what?
Ballerino?
You know, also...
Ballerine, yes.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy. You are a bimbo, is what you are.
That's accurate.
Now, if you were a female, you would be a bimba.
Oh!
See?
Oh, Italian is weird, man.
Exact. Well, you just the O or the A, man. It's pretty easy.
No, it's weird.
It's pretty simple.
I don't get it. Go ahead.
That's all. I just
Okay.
wanted. That's what I was gonna. I was actually just gonna get at like other words in the a lexicon where people don't realize that it's actually a masculine form, like bimbo.
Yeah.
Or like
Bravo, brava.
bravo, brava.
Yes.
Or like what's up, bro? What's up, brah?
That's
I made
just
that last one up.
yeah,
that's
that's either regular or douchey.
Yeah.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. Or it's like somebody who is a male familial relation
Right.
that shares the same parents, or something that holds up boobies.
Oh, I see
Yeah,
the distinction now.
Bro
Yeah.
versus bra.
Interesting.
Anyways, back to Dancers.
You learn something every day.
You do.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to go straight into the plot.
Could you please?
Yes.
All right.
Real life blends with fiction as a world-renowned ballerino stages his last performance, a production of the French ballet, Giselle.
Yes, indeed. That is what happened.
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty straightforward. Usually, I give some shitty smartass version.
Not at all derisive of the source.
No.
Not at all.
But this movie, I think, deserves the elevated version.
It kind of does.
Yeah.
Can we get a little history of this production of this movie? Because I
Yeah.
think it's fascinating.
Yeah, so it's weird because this is a real, like, life imitates art, which then further imitates art kind of a thing. Because the actual plot of the movie has a bunch of dancers performing the ballet Giselle, and the company of dancers are having a love triangle that's sort of...
Or square.
Or square. That is...
Pentagram.
or more.
Yeah.
It's just a big old orgy up in there. But I wanted to get that point across because that triangle, that love triangle, mimics what's actually happening in the ballet. Right?
Yeah.
But part of the reason they're doing the ballet is because Baryshnikov's character, Tony, Anton,
Yes.
is staging his last performance and he wants to capture it on film.
Right.
Well, the Go-Go Boys decided that they wanted to capture Baryshnikov's last performances of the ballet Giselle.
Yeah.
So what they did was they recorded Baryshnikov performing Giselle, the actual ballet that was done like real world, made that Tony in the movie, and then on top of that, they created a storyline to then have purpose for all of this footage of Baryshnikov's final performance.
Right.
Right?
And,
so it's a balception?
Balception, yes.
Yeah.
The closest thing that we have come to this in our podcast so far, I would say, and this is not a one-to-one comparison, but it's almost as if the ballet is Hard Rock Zombies, and it is laid into American Drive-In.
Yeah.
And that would be the narrative movie.
Exactly. Although in that one, it sort of happens the other way around.
Sure.
But there is that, it's that same exact thing where, like, you have one piece of art, and then you decide to create another piece of art, incorporating that other piece of art.
Exactly. And so it sort of serves double duty.
Yeah.
You know.
So it's weird that in this movie, which has a running time of about an hour and 40 minutes,
yeah.
the final 40 minutes is literally just Act 2 of the ballet.
Yeah.
With maybe 7 minutes of, like, other narrative footage sprinkled in.
That's generous.
That is pretty
almost,
generous.
Yeah.
And then the first hour, I would
sort
say,
of setting up the conflict.
Well, and then...
And the rehearsals.
Yeah, and rehearsals. And then, like, the last 20 minutes of the first hour is 20 minutes of Giselle.
Yeah.
The ballet. So...
So you get
that's a long way of saying, you get about an hour of ballet.
So if you're not into that, I think still sit through.
I would say this is one of those things where I know we're kind of hopping ahead, but I will say that Baryshnikov is fucking breathtaking. He's an incredible dancer, and the ballet is worth the price of admission alone on this movie because even if you're not a ballet fan, you should watch this movie because I think it might turn you into a ballet fan.
You might be a convert. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, also, yes, Mikhail Baryshnikov is the star of the show and the world-famous dancer, but honestly, I was captivated by Alessandra Ferri's, who plays his... who plays Giselle.
Who plays, in the ballet.
In the ballet. She is, I think, almost the best part of this movie.
Oh, she's incredible. It's interesting. So we should mention that she is also a dancer.
Yes.
And in fact, I think basically everybody in this movie is a professional dancer.
Yeah.
Alessandra Ferri was known for production of Romeo and Juliet. That came out about
in
3
1984,
years.
right?
Yeah, before Dancers.
Okay.
So she was like a prima ballerina too.
Wow.
So not only do we have perhaps the greatest living male ballerino, we also have one of the best ballerinas at the time, working basically at the top of their game. It's incredible because Baryshnikov, at the time of filming this,
was like
is about how old AJ and I are.
No, he's older.
He's older
he's
than...
like 40-ish?
Yeah. And, like, it's just one of those things where we just kept saying, like, well, if I did that, I'd be laying down on the ground for a week.
My joints hurt just watching it.
Him.
Yeah. Oh, my God.
But, yeah, the ballet itself is worth the price of admission. And also, too, I got to give a lot of credit to Herbert Ross because... The ballet was just gorgeously shot. And I thought Herbert Ross, the director, used a lot of restraint in allowing things just to be in the wide shot for a long time and finding different wide shots to make the shots look interesting and then cutting close at the right times for facial expressions, but really capturing what that ballet probably felt like rather than doing a lot of close cuts.
I think if it was made today, that absolutely would be. If you were to make a center stage version of this or something, I mean, even center stage is dated now.
Yes.
But if 2020 editing got its hands on it,
there would be 1,000 shots.
It would be.
Well, it reminded me of something. I actually just listened to this other podcast. I know I listen to other podcasts.
What?
I'm sorry.
Cheater.
Where the host was talking about Fred Astaire.
Okay.
And Fred Astaire demanded that all of his scenes be shot in wide. So that way audiences would see that he is actually the one doing the dance.
Where it's not cutting around a stunt guy.
Or a dance guy.
Sure.
And also that he can do those dances start to finish in all of their difficulty rather than like, just doing like one step and then cutting and then doing the next step.
Yeah.
It sort of proved how great of a dancer he was. And this reminded me of that, where Herbert Ross did a really good job of filming Baryshnikov and Ferri so we could see what they do.
Yeah. I mean, the long shots of their leaps and their spins in the air. We were talking about the physics, the apparent physics of this. And their movements are so light. It feels as if they're landing on a marshmallow.
Yeah.
And he's also, when he lifts Ferri, when Baryshnikov lifts Ferri, he is in control of her the entire time. He doesn't let her land. He lands her. Yeah, it's incredible.
And it's weird, too, because we're kind of using hand motions as we describe this, but he lifts her sort of like up on the right, kind of over his head, and then like holds her in the air and then sets her down.
And has control of her the entire time.
That's exactly the point I was going to make.
Right.
It was like, it's not that he uses her like force to move her across. Mm-hmm. He actually has the entire control over how she's moving. And there's a moment where he sets her down, and he sets her down as like you would want a pilot to set down your plane.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It is soft and
poof.
Yeah. Like if you put her in dirt, there would not be a cloud coming up, right? Like, it's that perfect. Yeah, the ballet in this movie is riveting, and I know we are talking a lot about it. A lot of the movie spends time on it. But
and we're almost front-loading the talk of that
up front
to get through to the actual story of the movie.
Which, the other thing we should comment on really quick up top as well, I think, is because of everybody in this movie being a dancer, some of the acting is really uneven, we shall say.
Yes.
And that'll be the kindest way of saying it.
Absolutely.
But Alessandra Ferri is, I think, the best actor in the movie, followed closely by Baryshnikov.
Yeah, I think she holds her own in both camps.
Yes.
In acting and in dance. And I think that during her dance scenes, she is captivating as well. Even though she doesn't say anything, her face and the emotion that she has, even in the close-ups, is quite interesting.
She's a very good dancer.
Yeah.
And actually, too, one of the things I want to give Baryshnikov credit for, and again, we're jumping all across the board here, but one of the characters says to Baryshnikov, like midway through the movie, you've lost your passion for dance, and when you dance, it's not fully passionate. And this is something I thought he actually did really interestingly well in the movie that was subtle. He doesn't have, his facial expressions aren't huge and passionate for the bulk of the first part of the dance. But as things have affected him, he really injects so much emotion into his dance as the dance moves forward that it's a really subtle thing, but I think we should give him credit as an actor, not just as a dancer, for being able to create that journey and sort of finish the loop that his friend opened.
Well, and it's at the very beginning, he actually alludes to it as well when he's talking to Alessandra Ferri, who plays the character Francesca.
And Giselle in the ballet.
Yeah. Ferri plays Francesca, who plays Giselle.
Yep. Ooh, that's not going to get confusing.
We'll try. But he says to her, it feels bad not to be able to feel. So they set it up quite early on that he is... It's not that he's a sociopath.
No.
It's that he has sort of lost his passion, or it's mechanical to him at this point in his life.
Yeah. And maybe this is actually the good point to start from the beginning.
Jump back in, yeah. Although we should jump back a little bit further to that opening scene of him directing his friend.
Oh, I was actually going to say, let's go back to the beginning of the movie.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Because, first of all, this had a really interesting credit in the opening title sequence that was the Artists of the American Ballet Theater.
Oh, yeah.
Which, that's like, as a star of the movie. It was
right. Because they were the supporting.
Yeah. Leslie Brown, introducing Julie Kent, and then simply the Artists of the American Ballet Theater, which I thought was fascinating.
Yeah, and that's... I mean, it was made by somebody who clearly respects dancers, so it was nice to see that up on the screen, which you normally wouldn't get, most likely. They would be credited at the end, or in extras or something like that. Yeah. So after 2 minutes and 42 or 3 seconds...
You are so angry about the credits.
Listen, I think something more creative could have been done, but it was just white words on a black card for 2 minutes and 42 seconds.
Oh my god. I mean...
Put dancing feet. Put, like, people on a balance bar. What is it? The rehearsal bar?
Oh,
what do you call it?
It's a bar.
Just the bar.
Ballet
I don't know.
bar.
Ballet bar. There should be a ballet bar. I'm sure there has to be like a bar that ballet dancers go to. And they just get vodka
ballet
tonics.
Bar?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. But I don't know. When somebody doesn't take advantage of their credits to set a tone, other than with music, I suppose. But I've seen it.
Maybe that was the
times.
tone he wanted to set.
Oh, fascinating.
Yeah.
All right, then.
Maybe that was the exact tone he wanted to set.
Well, I don't know Mr. Ross, so I won't go on anymore.
I'll call Herbie.
Next.
He's a love bug. He's so kind. So after AJ's done whining about the credits while watching the movie, the first scene is a young woman named Lisa, who is played by Julie Kent. She gets the Anne introduction card. Interesting small fact, she was born Julie Cox, and it was actually Baryshnikov who convinced her to change her name to Kent.
Oh, interesting.
And she went on to go star in, speaking of ballet movies, Center Stage.
Oh, hey.
Yeah.
Cool.
Weird how that works.
Interesting.
But she is waiting at the airport for a ride, and an Italian man sort of comes up and just sort of like grabs her luggage and grabs her arm, and she like fights him, and they do this like weird sign language thing where he's like, come with me, and like he's doing this he's doing a really great job.
He's very energetic.
Yes, he's very energetic, but he's also does a really great job of explaining like, you're supposed to come with me.
Yeah.
And then she does her sign language, which was almost laughable.
Which it almost feels as if somebody is being derisive of deaf people. You know,
well, but it wasn't even like informative, because she was just sort of like
pointing,
go away, and she was just sort of like pointing up in the air to like nothing. Like,
when
I don't know, you go away.
When it wasn't you or I, it was up.
And it was so weird. But eventually, like, he grabs her. She fights him off. Then he pulls something out of his pocket, and he's like, ballet. And she's like, oh,
you're the person
my
from
ride.
Yeah.
And at that point, we see that he drives her through, I think it's Rome. It's somewhere in Italy.
Could be.
That's when we find out that, I mean, obviously we're in Italy. Well, we should have known from him, but like now we know for sure that we are in Italy. And that character's name is Paolo. Just to be clear.
Where's Nikki?
Boy.
Boo. Go ahead.
Oh, and basically, we drive through Rome and we find out that we're in Rome. I'm assuming it's Rome. It could be somewhere else in Italy.
Could be, yeah.
But we'll just go with Rome for now.
Sure. And for now is over. Research AJ to the rescue. The actual filming location is Bari, Italy, or Bari, Italy. It's on the exact opposite coast from Rome in the Apulia region on the Adriatic Sea. It is a port city with a maze-like rectangular grid pattern and a major nightlife district among a basilica, a cathedral, and a castle. Oh, Italy. Back to the show.
And she's basically new. We find out that she's new. She is she's
the
like,
replacement dancer for someone who broke
a foot.
A foot, yeah, exactly.
And she's sort of like, oh, is that where we're rehearsing? And that's when it cuts to
one of the cooler scenes in this movie, where it's Baryshnikov walking his friend through blocking on
the dance, the dance, basically.
The dance, or the
basic movement.
Yeah, and they're talking it through both direction-wise and their emotion-wise.
Yeah, so
but there's no establishing. So if you don't understand how a production has, Nick and I have been in theater for years in our lives, and so it makes sense. But I think do you think it's inaccessible to an audience that's not theater
I think that
experienced?
Was pretty clear.
No, it was, but there are shorthands, and there are things that people wouldn't be able to grasp or relate to, I suppose.
I actually thought what was really interesting about it while watching it, because what they were doing was basically like, and I, as the count, move like this. I point over there. No, I am not interested in her. Yes, you are interested in her. Like, and they kind of like acted it out with body and words.
Yeah.
So that way we could understand what was happening emotionally as they were dancing, and story-wise.
Yeah.
Which in that moment of that scene may not have felt like, part of me was like, I don't know why we're listening to this.
Sure.
But then, later on in the movie, when we see, like, the parallels, you're like, oh, fuck, that's why we're listening to this.
Yes. And
that makes a lot of sense.
And it's actually a pretty charming scene. And
yeah.
Also, it sort of gets you into the mindset that later on, if anybody's never seen a ballet, it's wordless. Mm-hmm. And therefore, you are going to have to layer on whatever interpretation of the actions are in your own mind.
And they do a really good job of that, I think, in this. Yeah. And the other thing, too, that's really great about that scene is Baryshnikov is wearing what I like to think of as the teen girl Adidas, which are, like, the pure white Adidas with, like, the 3 black stripes.
And definitely some eye makeup.
And definitely...
through all of this movie, unless he has that nice of eyelashes, or I don't know what it is.
I think he had a lot of makeup on.
Yeah,
I wrote down that.
Yeah.
After that scene is the scene where Baryshnikov is laying in bed. Alessandra Ferri, who plays Francesca, comes over to basically sleep with him, and he's like, they have this conversation about talking about the opera, and he's like, I don't know why this character motivation has this or that, and she says basically something to the effect of, well, you know, you don't have the mindset of a woman. I'm glad I've never been in love with you.
And he says something to the effect of, why would someone cheat, or something like that?
And then come back to that person.
Come back to that person. And at the same time, she discovers another woman's hair clip or something in the bathroom.
And says, you mean like this? And he goes, that's when he says the line about,
it feels so bad to not be able to feel.
Yeah. And in that moment, she's kind of like, you know what? I'm actually uninterested in sleeping with you
Don't worry
tonight.
about it, man.
And what was so fascinating about that scene, and what I love so much, is she wasn't angry screaming, and I actually got the impression that she actually wasn't interested. She was interested in the sex.
Yes.
And in this moment, she was like,
well, she
I'm fine tonight.
She maintained a strong ground. She was like, no, I'm good. If you're screwing around, that's fine with me, but then I'm out.
I just thought that was such a good scene.
Yeah.
And this is a thing that felt like it happened a lot in the movie. Some of the writing was not great. And that was a great scene with some bad exposition mixed in.
Yes, agreed. And because a lot of things in the narrative mirror Giselle, the ballet. And therefore, some of it seems as if they are trying to force certain parts of the movie, but other times it works so goddamn well.
Well, I think what's interesting is and this is actually in the next scene, it's this really beautiful scene where they're rehearsing. Baryshnikov sort of notices the new girl, Lisa, and he's like, hey, she's interesting. This is where we find out that Francesca, Alessandra Ferri, is playing Giselle.
Yes.
And they're rehearsing the scene, shot beautifully with mirrors.
That
dance
shot
practice.
is awesome.
There's so many beautiful shots, so much beautiful movement. We're finding out more about the story, but there's a woman who is like
acting
the
like an assistant director.
Mother. Yeah,
because it seems as if she's watching it for Baryshnikov, who would normally be directing it, but he's in it, so he needs somebody else.
Yes,
to have similar thought process.
And she just keeps in ADR. It's clear that it's ADR.
That was
shouting out the line, like the action, like what's happening in the action. And this is what I was going to get to.
Sure.
Is I feel like some of these moments were for like the least common denominator of person who's not going to get what's happening.
Right.
So they sort of ham-fist exposition in early, so that way when it pays off at the end, it's impactful.
Right.
But my guess is it would have been just as impactful without the ham-fisted exposition.
Well, it's interesting because it's almost like they said, we need another scene like that first part where it's just Baryshnikov and his friend, his co-star, and they are walking around and describing it. And then they were like, wait, the next scene where they're rehearsing needs something like that as well.
Well, I think it's just they didn't trust the audience to figure out what was happening in the ballet.
Yes, yeah.
Like, we couldn't tell the story. Like, we couldn't figure out what the story was if it wasn't for some old lady sort of screaming it at us, which is a real bummer.
Yeah.
One of the best parts of this movie, though, happened in this scene where Paolo shows up in a T-shirt.
Oh, God, yes, the T-shirt.
Back,
oh, my God.
It's Sylvester Stallone.
And then he turns around, and it's an over-the-top shirt. Holy crap!
Yep, a Cannon fucking staple. An over-the-top Stallone t-shirt. That was weird.
Weird. How blatant.
Yeah.
How old was that movie at the time?
So Over the Top came out in 1987. What? And it actually came out for Valentine's Day 1987. And Dancers came out early October 1987. So they were probably being shot at the same time. They may not have known which was getting released first.
But I just love the idea that they're trying to drop a hint in this movie to say,
go see the other one.
Hey guys, if you loved this movie, you'll love Over the Top.
Actually, you know what I thought the hint was?
Yeah.
Is more of a, hey guys, if your girlfriend dragged you to this movie, you know what else you could be watching? Over the Top. Come on down, see Over the Top.
We got something for everybody.
Yeah. At this point, Baryshnikov seems to have interest in Lisa, and Lisa finds him interesting as sort of like the leader, director of this troupe. Somebody
to admire.
Right.
Yes.
But she seems to have her interests romantically in Paolo.
Yes, that's right.
Also in this scene, we should point out, there's a character whose name is Wade, who is the other romantic lead.
Of the Giselle ballet.
In Giselle.
Yes.
So, in the ballet Giselle, Baryshnikov's character and Wade's character are fighting over Giselle.
Right.
Baryshnikov's character is a rich aristocrat. Wade's character is just like a poor farmer.
Right.
And there's this really interesting thing where Baryshnikov and Wade get into an argument because Wade thinks he should gently carry Giselle across the stage to pull her away from the aristocrat. Mm-hmm. Whereas Baryshnikov was like, no.
You gotta be a cartoon.
You are.
Basically.
Yeah, where you have to grab her and wrench her across the stage and take her wherever you're going. And you can't lead her kindly. You have to grab her and yank her, which it didn't dawn on us until much, much later. But Paolo, who is the poor Italian boy, when he first meets our Giselle stand-in in the movie, who is Lisa,
right,
grabs her and yanks her across the stage.
Yes, grabs her and yanks her to his motorbike. Yes.
Yep. So now we've got, just to be clear, Baryshnikov is both himself in real life and the ballet. He's sort of both the stand-in for the aristocrat, right?
Who thinks he's better for the girl.
Yes.
Yes.
And then we have the girl who is Giselle in the ballet, but Lisa is her stand-in in real life. And then we have Wade, who is the actor in the ballet, in the movie, in the ballet, and I can't remember what his character was in the ballet.
It was Hilarion. Something like that.
That is funny as shit.
I know.
Hilarion. And then Paolo is the real-life counterpart to the Wade/Hilarion character.
Right. He's the poor but plucky guy.
Keep that in your minds.
Yeah. Good luck.
At this point,
also,
Lisa...
can we talk about Wade?
Oh my god. Oh yes, we should talk about
Wade. Wade has this. We immediately looked at each other and said, "What accent is that?" Because it sounds like a Russian person trying to do, or anybody from Europe or
it sounds Eastern European.
Eastern European doing a Southern accent.
Because it was like well, you're gonna get out there and you got Putin. But we looked him up, and he was born and raised in North Carolina.
So what I've heard a lot of people, when people move out to LA, they try their best to lose their accent. And it sounded almost like he lost his accent and then put it back on for some reason.
So
I don't know.
My guess was actually kind of almost the opposite, where he grew up in North Carolina, but in order to become a very good at what he does, he spent a lot of time in Eastern Europe and picked up some Eastern Europeanisms.
That's interesting.
Either way, his accent was both, I think, actually authentic and incredibly wild. But at this point, Lisa meets Paolo outside, and she's like waiting on his motorbike. And she has her pointe shoes on, which is insane.
Bad form, Lisa.
Bad form, Lisa. And Baryshnikov sort of sees her and Paolo together, and he asks another ballerina, and I don't remember who it is, but basically someone who works in the company, like, what's the story on the new girl? And she's like, leave her alone. And he's like,
You
no,
got
no,
enough
no,
girls.
no, like, does she, and she kind of like gives her the background. And then she goes, well, she's dead in the water now, which I thought was an interesting line.
Yeah. And also to build on how much of a womanizer Baryshnikov is, I think there's a couple of fun lines, funny, not fun lines that are like, how does he deal with the stress? Take 2 girls and call them in the morning.
Oh yeah,
something
that comes
like
later. You know how he deals with a headache? He
There
takes
you
2
go.
girls and feels better in the morning.
That's right.
That comes much, much later.
Yeah, it does. It does. But we already sort of know that he
he's a
is
womanizer.
a
womanizer. Womanizer. I actually have a note right here that the story is so interesting, but the dialogue is so expository. Yet another note in this moment that says his dancing is breathtaking. But at some point, Paolo is going to meet Lisa. Baryshnikov follows her. He grabs Lisa.
Right.
And, like, they sort of run away from where Paolo is supposed to meet her. Paolo sort of searches, can't find her. And at this point in the story, we should mention that Paolo has taken Lisa
to meet his family.
and
oh my
all
God,
the dancers
I wanted
are there.
all of that food.
Oh, that guy, when that guy was
So
eating just like pure mozzarella, just
like a hand
grabbing
fruit.
it. Oh my fucking God, that
Wanted
looks
it.
so good. But anyways,
Yeah.
Baryshnikov and Lisa are starting to connect, and Baryshnikov in this really beautiful shot where they're standing looking over the ocean. It's sort of this like 2 shot where his face is
Straight on.
well, first he's looking out over the ocean and she steps
Sure.
into the frame.
Yeah.
And it's this beautiful 2 shot. And he starts telling the story about when he was little, there was these white trees, that they were beautiful.
And he imagined them as being
women.
women, tall, white women.
And tall, white, slender pale
sure.
women. And
Yep.
the camera pushes in on
Yes.
them, comes closer and closer and closer. As Baryshnikov looks towards the camera and at Lisa.
Yep.
And Lisa's looking out. And what was so beautiful about it is it almost turns into like one face.
It melded, yes.
It was such a cool shot. But he tells this really beautiful story about these trees.
Very intimate.
Intimate and lovely. And he says basically, I wanted to fall in love with the women in the trees.
And you reminded me of them.
me of the women in the trees.
Exactly.
And from that moment, she is in.
Ugh.
Which is so weird because it's actually romantic.
Yeah.
But the chemistry between the 2 actors
Not
is
there at
so
all.
bad that I do not buy the romance.
That was the biggest shame of this.
Yeah.
And obviously, they're dancers first.
Yes.
Film actors later. Not to say, and I do want to make the distinction that person in a ballet is an actor.
Yes,
They do have to
absolutely.
show emotion. They do have to do all of this physical stuff, and with their face, and so they are good at what they do.
And I would also say too, Baryshnikov, like I would have bought the relationship between Baryshnikov and if Alessandra Ferri was the woman.
Yes.
The played the Lisa
They
character.
had good connection.
I have to say, and this is not to be rude, but Lisa was a terrible actress.
Well, it must have been one of her first roles.
It was.
Right?
And I think she
So-
was very young as a ballerina as well.
That was also a bit of uncomfort that I felt, was that she was probably 20
or 18.
or 18, and he was close to 40,
Yeah.
if not 40.
Yeah, the age difference is a little uncomfortable, but for movies of the time, very typical. And actually, too, if you really think about some of the movies we watch today, where you have like 45-year-old Bradley Cooper and a literally 19-year-old Jennifer Lawrence in Silver Linings Playbook.
Sure. Bradley Cooper was 37, and Jennifer Lawrence was 22.
You know, I'm not okaying it,
No.
but at the same time...
But it is pretty common in Hollywood.
We also find out in this movie through Baryshnikov's courting of Lisa. He does a great dwarf from Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
He gets so tiny.
Yeah, and then later on he does this incredible Charlie Chaplin.
He is a master with his movement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the reason he does the Charlie Chaplin is because she, meaning Lisa, finds out that
Not only
Baryshnikov's character is
He is a
perhaps
dog.
engaged to a woman who's literally just known as
the Countess.
So she is sort of brokenhearted about that, but he leaves Lisa flowers, and she feels better about it.
And as he's walking away,
that's when he does the chaplain.
Yes, that's right.
And his chaplain is so charming and good.
It really is. I mean, he is a likable guy, even though we are told that he's a cad a bit. He still has that's the emotional tightrope that he has to walk through this.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and I think that's actually what he actually does so well in his performance, is that I can see why a woman would sleep with him knowing who he is, because he is sort of likable. He sort of says the right things,
and he's sort of a tortured genius.
He's sort of the tortured
admirable.
Genius, and his butt is literally a shelf. There's one scene later on where
Holy
it's
crap.
it's like an anvil. Like, you can fucking mold metal on it. It is so fucking rock solid.
I think you talked more about his butt and legs than you have about any other woman's butt or legs in this podcast.
Listen, I'm going to say this right now.
Okay.
I have some issues with objectifying women. I don't think it's something we should do.
Agreed.
I think you can objectify Mikhail Baryshnikov.
He is a specimen,
because that is just it is pure admiration. In that, he was not born so much as he was chiseled from marble, and
by
came
Michelangelo.
to life. Because his legs as well were just like, how do those exist on a human?
Yeah.
How? And it's not like the workout strong that sort of looks fake and veiny.
Yeah, it's the slender movement, just
it is the
always dancing every day, all day.
It's that sort of thing where it's like, if I had to bring one person into a fist fight, I am not going to bring The Rock. I'm going to bring Baryshnikov.
Because he'd be fast, he'd have a reach.
He would beat the shit out of somebody.
Yeah.
You know.
Because he's got practical muscle.
He's got practical.
Not show muscle.
And The Rock, again, I also think The Rock is quite the specimen of a human.
Oh, right?
If you know me, you know that I love The Rock.
Yeah.
You know, so just putting that out there.
How have we not done a cannon blast on a Rock movie?
Oh my God.
Right?
This would be you would probably be like, wow, Nick, you love The Rock that much? And I'd be like, I do. Have you seen the Jumanji movies?
I haven't, weirdly.
Oh my God.
I know.
Maybe that's a cannon blast, because both of them are
double cannon blast.
Yeah. Boom, boom.
There it is.
Okay, so anyways, back to dancers.
To it.
There was a moment that really cracked me up where Wade, as Hilarium,
sure,
that's what we're going to call him, in the ballet, in order to present Giselle a present, leaves 2 dead rabbits on her door, which I actually said to AJ, I was like, if you do that today, I don't think you're going to woo a woman.
No. It's more of a threat.
Yeah, it's really more of a threat.
Yeah.
It's like, you get 2 dead
it's like
rabbits
bunny
on
burning,
your door.
or bunny boiling.
Yeah.
You know?
Or it's like the next question is like, do you wet your pants? Do you like fire because you are a serial killer? But that's a whole other story.
Yep. This isn't a true crime podcast.
This is when the movie had, I actually thought, one of the most... So I'm pretty good at calling movies, knowing what's going to happen plot-wise. But there's this wonderful moment where Lisa is getting ready. Paulo has shown up with a magazine that shows Baryshnikov and the Countess, and it says that they're getting married.
Right.
And Lisa refuses to believe it. She says something like...
That's just a thing where they cut out people's heads and put it... It's like the pre-Photoshop National Enquirer
exactly.
type of thing. Yeah.
And Paulo storms away, and one of the other dancers sitting there, who is actually kind of a major character in the movie, but for our purposes, we're just not going to mention her much.
Doesn't really come up.
Yeah,
and there's no parallels within the play, so it doesn't matter.
She basically plays Wade's baby mama. And there is
in real life,
and there is some interesting drama that happens there, and some great scenes.
Watch the movie for that.
Yeah, but we won't go too far. But she basically is just putting on her makeup, and she doesn't realize that Baryshnikov and Lisa are in a relationship.
Right.
And she just very offhand says, "Oh, maybe he just told the Countess that she reminded him of a tall white tree. He said the same thing to me. Anyways." Don't stay young any longer than you have to.
Don't stay young any longer than you have to.
That moment...
That killed me.
I gasped. Because I thought Baryshnikov, when he said that to Lisa, was having like a real moment. And the thought that I had at that point in time was that it was going to be genuine.
Well, it was almost as if he had seduced you.
Yes.
And the audience as well, being like, oh, shit, maybe he's stealing Lisa away from Paulo, but he's got this genuine feeling to him. Nope, that's his fucking pickup line.
That's his line. And when that happened, I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Truly shocking, truly surprising, wonderful writing.
Yeah.
I should have seen it coming, but I did not.
Well,
so many good things happening in that scene.
Yeah.
And at this point is where we actually start the ballet. We have the whole first act of the ballet where Lisa is sitting on stage trying to hold it together, but is just crying.
The Countess is in the audience.
Watching. We have all these great shots of Lisa looking at the Countess and the diamond on her hand.
Yep.
Shining.
And there's a whole issue when they are doing screen tests at the beginning, and there is essentially
Countess character
who has a ring, and
Baryshnikov, the aristocrat that Baryshnikov is playing,
right,
is engaged to both the Countess in Giselle, but also engaged to Giselle.
And he talks about
in the screen test
how the ring needs to be big and the ring needs to shine so that people in the audience or people seeing the film will know that there is a big-ass ring that he bought for this acting Countess, the Countess part. So there are scenes where we see the flash of the Countess's ring in the thing that we are seeing.
It was such a cool moment. So Lisa's... Oh, by the way, sorry. Really great shot. We both commented on this shot. When the camera...
pans over the camera that it's filming.
Yes. And
so cool.
Something weirdly satisfying.
It was very odd to imagine almost a camera facing a camera.
Yes.
It's very weird.
And it was actually a really beautiful shot.
Yeah.
It was a really beautiful shot.
It was.
But anyways, the act ends. Lisa runs off stage crying and then
just devastated.
Runs out into the darkness and just goes. Completely gone.
Yeah.
Baryshnikov runs off stage after the act break.
Yep.
And he's sort of like, where did Lisa go? And they're like, Paulo at this point runs in.
Yep.
And is just screaming at him in Italian. And this is one of the things I really loved and I thought was super smart about the movie, is that there was some Italian that was subtitled, but none of Paolo's lines were at all. Paolo was not subtitled once.
Right.
There was some subtitles, remember, with the little girl and the flower.
Oh, and yes, that's right. The guy's loading in all of the gear the setup. Yeah.
So there were bits that were subtitled throughout, but none of Paolo's lines were.
Yeah.
Which creates this really interesting moment where Paolo's freaking out, screaming at Baryshnikov, and Baryshnikov is like, I don't know what the fuck is he saying, and then someone has to translate. And there's this moment where you see the horror on Baryshnikov's face. And they run outside to find Lisa, and all they find is a wet jacket near the ocean.
And wasn't that jacket given to her by Baryshnikov earlier on a date?
Yes, and also, that's actually the Countess's jacket that he had in his car.
Oopsie.
Yes. So it just becomes this really interesting, circle. And actually, at this moment...
Well layered.
Well, and at this moment, too, this is, again, Herbert Ross did just an incredible job directing in that the movement, while Baryshnikov, Paulo, and this other older man are out searching in this big courtyard near the ocean for Lisa, unable to find Lisa. They're afraid that she's jumped in. The movement of them just walking and the camera movement mirrors the ballet's movements and how they move across the stage.
Wides and it's not that they avoid cutting when it's necessary, but they do give a very expansive look at where they're at and in relation to each other.
It's such an interesting thing. And then on top of that, there's this beautiful moment where Baryshnikov says to Paulo, if she's gone or if anything happens to her, it's your fault. And then when he's in private, he says to his friend,
this is my fault, isn't it?
Yeah, it's my fault. If anything happens to her, it's my fault.
I also want to mention, because we were talking about the wides of the courtyard, there is a great line at the very beginning by some of the guys who are loading in the gear from the for the filming. They say, why are they shooting it in Italy? Well, it's cheaper to shoot in Italy. And honestly, if it's cheaper to shoot in Italy, shoot everything in Italy, because the backdrops for this movie are beautiful. The sets, the streets that they're walking up and down, the beautiful ancient buildings.
Yeah.
Oh God.
It's sumptuous.
Yes.
Like it leaps off the screen.
It's
not
just
to use it. It plies off the screen. Another thing we should mention too when they're talking about
the loading
why
in.
they're loading in. There's a scene in Giselle, first of all, where Giselle does the he loves me not with a flower. And she pulls one off, he loves me not, pulls another one off, he loves me, and then she counts the flowers and realizes that at the end of it, it will be he loves me not.
Whoops.
And then there's a little girl who tries to give Baryshnikov a flower.
Yeah, she gives one of the workers a flower.
To give to him.
Right.
And he kind of just tosses it on the ground because he's like,
he's got enough
lovers, which I thought was a really fascinating thing.
Oh, the use of flowers and yeah.
Which we are going to make a big cut, right, in this. We're going to make a big jump.
Yep.
Because Baryshnikov has to go back for the second act.
Yep.
Midway through the second act, he sees a bunch of cops enter the room.
While he is on stage.
And that is the moment where he is just injected with this incredibly daring dancing life, right?
Yeah, he's reinvigorated, it seems, on stage.
So he is now afraid that Lisa's dead because he found a jacket that's wet near the water. And the cops have come in. So what's actually happened in the end of the ballet, at the end of the first act of the ballet, Giselle dies.
Of heartbreak, almost.
Heartbreak.
Yes.
So the whole second act of Giselle is Baryshnikov's character
mourning at the grave site of Giselle.
Who then returns as a ghost with a bunch of other ghosts of women who he has jilted. The aristocrat
essentially
has jilted.
Yeah.
So it's a whole ghost ballet, basically. And Baryshnikov sort of dances with her one last time. What becomes super fascinating is midway through the second act, out of nowhere, Lisa just sort of appears at the back of the auditorium.
And at that point, I actually thought, because he was looking out into the audience and it shot to her, I was like, oh my God, does he see her?
No
but
way.
They do not get a reaction shot of him. So he is clueless that she's watching all of this.
And at this point, there's this real big question of, is she a ghost or is she not a ghost? Right? Which I thought was really cool. The ballet continues for a good 35 minutes or so. And it is gorgeous.
Amazing, entrancing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the end of the ballet, what happens is Giselle sits on her gravestone. And the gravestone actually turns with the Giselle on it as the aristocrat lays on these white flowers crying at the gravesite. And he picks them up and he drops them as he realizes that he has caused this death, right? And then the ballet ends.
Yeah.
We cut to off stage. Baryshnikov is like devastated that he can't find Lisa. Everybody sort of goes home. They're all proud of the work that they've done. And as he's walking through the theater, he sees Lisa. And I was so excited that I thought it would be a ghost.
I wanted it to be a ghost so much.
Or at least the question of whether it was a ghost or not.
Yeah.
Sadly, and I actually think I would have preferred that.
Yeah.
Sadly, I think it's pretty definitive that it's not a ghost.
Nope.
And he's like, where did you go? And she drops her jean line to show a tattoo on her hip of one of those white flowers with 2 petals falling.
And if you count the petals,
He loves me not.
He loves me not.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is pretty much how the movie ends.
Yeah. Yeah.
I thought this movie was breathtaking, AJ.
I don't know what I expected, because if you look at it, if you look at the title, just the title, yes, I know Baryshnikov's in it, and that should already give it some gravitas, but the title is so bland. So banal and you can't expect anything from it. So it's just like, this is gonna just be an average story. But the metaphor in this, the symmetry and the beautiful athleticism of every single and art of every single one of the dancers in this is breathtaking.
Well, and to even go further, of like, Dancers is such a boring title. The poster of the movie is such a boring poster.
It's just his face.
It's just basically a close-up of Baryshnikov and a woman sitting on a moped, right? Like, in the corner that you could barely see. Tagline of the movie is lovers, dreamers, people, dancers.
Boo.
And also, too, I hate to say this, you think Baryshnikov, you think he's a dancer. He's not an actor.
Right.
There's no way this is going to be good. It's going to be painful the whole time.
I would have loved to see, you know, it would have been awesome. Here it is. Show a large picture of Alessandra Ferri in the background doing a move, and then have a small version of Lisa in the front
doing the same move. Yes.
I think that's how you do it. And have that beautiful... Also, feature that beautiful set. The set was clearly done for an actual ballet. It was beautiful. It was deep. It was detailed. It was beautifully colored.
Sumptuous. I'm going to use sumptuous again.
And it moved, and there were different aspects. The doors opened, and there was a very deep tree in the center that really it felt three-dimensional. And then we realized when it got a close-up, it was just a flat.
Yeah.
And so that should have been in the background of this poster, honestly.
Well, and I should have known, too, even though the company is made up of dancers, the writer is Sarah Kernachan, who did 9.5 Weeks. She did Summersby. She did What Lies Beneath.
Okay.
So she's got, some pedigree behind her.
Absolutely.
And the director, Herbert Ross, did The Turning Point, which was a Academy Award-nominated film, right? But he also did the Neil Simon movies, The Goodbye Girl, Sunshine Boys, and California Suite. He also directed Steel Magnolias.
My God.
The Owl and the Pussycat. He did The Last of Sheila.
He knows what's going on.
He did fucking Funny Lady. He did Pennies from Heaven.
Jesus.
He did Footloose.
Oh my God. The original.
The original Footloose.
Wow.
He did one of my favorite movies of the 80s, starring Rick Moranis and Steve Martin, called My Blue Heaven.
Oh.
He also did this really terrible Michael J. Fox movie called The Secret of My Success.
I remember that one, yes.
And the Boys on the Side. So, his career was filled with, they may not be all, Academy Award winners.
Right.
But they were all solid,
and he knew what he was doing.
Yeah. And even in, The Goodbye Girl, he actually directed Richard Dreyfuss to his one and only Academy Award.
Are you kidding? Wow.
And he got a supporting and another leading actress role nominated as well.
Oh, my God.
That was nominated for Best Picture. I mean, he knows his shit.
Yeah.
So I should have known, or at least expected something better than what I had expected.
If we did any research whatsoever before watching it.
Well, I did do the research. That's the crazy part.
You fool.
And I still was like, this is going to be painful. Well, also, too, because in the research, you found out pretty quickly that this was incredibly panned upon release.
I know.
Critics
I read
hated
that,
it.
and I do not understand it.
I don't get it either.
I think if you looked at it with even a bit of a critical eye, you see at least what the intention of the director is. Maybe the actors aren't all up to snuff necessarily, but they are still.
But the story is
strong. My God, yes.
And just the archival footage of the dancing alone should have been enough for people to go, fucking watch this.
I think I understand, though, in the second half, if you were writing this specifically to be a movie that was not also the full...
Like a ballet. Yeah.
I think they lean a bit hard on... Obviously, I mean, it's a majority of the movie.
I mean, the movie, again,
it could have been called ballet rather than dancers.
Ballet, 40 minutes is acting, story.
Exactly. So what I think is that there's a great story there. I almost think, as much as I was entranced by it, the gravesite part, which is essentially the second half, is indulgent.
Sure.
And if you were going to make it more of a drama, you would have issues come up. You would have whenever he exited the stage, perhaps the cops tried to talk to him. There would be a higher stake almost. And to be understood in this movie, the stake is almost put on to us as, is he going to get his mojo back?
Yeah.
As a dancer? That's kind of the arc that we follow. Rather than it being some sort of higher, more adventurous stakes.
Well, and we sort of... there is a little bit of a handoff of who we follow in the movie, because through the first half, it feels like it's Lisa's movie, and then at some point it becomes Baryshnikov's movie.
Yeah.
Which in its own self is fine. This is a hard one because I was fucking riveted. I was captivated. But you're right. The more I think about it, the more I understand, like, why you may not love this movie and why it was sort of panned upon release, especially if you weren't expecting ballet.
A full ballet.
And if your initial response to watching a ballet would be like, fuck this.
Yeah, I mean, truly, I'm not necessarily someone to seek out a ballet to go see. You know, I would probably, if I were to be given the opportunity, go to an opera before a ballet.
Oh,
possibly.
Have you ever been to either?
What, do you think I'm some sort of Philistine? Of course I have been.
Yes.
Maybe a few. Maybe even more than a few, sir.
Okay, jeez.
Have you?
Yeah.
Have you?
I mean, when I was in Italy this summer...
Oh, I guess.
I went out of my way to make sure I was able to see the Roman opera.
Oh, that's awesome.
To the point where, like, I had our tour guide convince them to let us in for the dress rehearsal.
Oh my gosh.
Because we were leaving Rome the night before the opera opened.
Wow.
Yeah. And I worked for the San Francisco Opera for almost a year, so I saw a bunch of... So yes, I've seen a ton of opera, and I've seen a good handful of ballet.
Sure. But yeah, in my preference, it would be more an opera than a ballet.
Fair enough.
But still, as someone who is not ballet focused,
yes.
I very much enjoyed the story of it and the spectacle of it too.
I mean, normally we leave this question for last of would you recommend this movie, but I'm just going to flat out say
yes.
Yeah,
I think it's absolutely worth a watch. I don't think
don't expect the greatest acting in the world.
Nope.
But do you expect to have your mind blown by some things and some really good writing and clever dialogue?
And honestly, to look back on it, you're struck by it initially. You're like,
yes.
Oh my God, is this going to be the whole movie? But the bad acting is in such small percent that it really doesn't hinder the movie. It just hits your ear wrong at the very beginning and is not
and
a
then
great...
moves on. Yeah,
exactly.
It's not a great opening moment.
That's what I'm saying.
That's not the best pickup line. To
honestly, I think what I would do if I was going to change anything in this, start with the
ballet.
No, start with the guys.
I'm sorry. Yeah, that's what I meant. Like the two men talking about the ballet,
and then go to to Lisa's introduction.
Yeah,
I think absolutely that.
I would almost even go one step further and introduce the Alessandra Ferri Francesca character.
Hell yeah.
And then go to Lisa. But that's
personal,
so what are we taking from this movie and putting in canon?
So two things that we actually didn't even mention. There are a couple of moments, especially one moment where Baryshnikov is looking for Lisa. A scene transition opens with a stranger lighting a cigarette on the street. I
actually really like that.
I loved that. I was like, I want to see more of that. It builds the world. You never have to follow this person, although you may say, wait, where did that guy go? What was his but it's in Rome. It's maybe. We still don't have a confirmation.
He's out there roaming around. Oh my God, I'll see myself out.
Boo! Yes, boo indeed. It's Bari, not Rome. But yeah, I really enjoyed an active transition rather than just a let's sweep onto the street. Yeah. Let's pan down from a roof or something like that. I loved having it active. And there was also another point where, I don't know if it was an establishing shot, but there was a time where Baryshnikov was hiding Lisa and it was just on a stranger on the street.
Yes.
And he had helped hide them.
Yes.
Second thing, that was just...
Baryshnikov bought him a drink, too.
That's right.
And we didn't even see him buying the drink. It was actually this really cool moment of, like, when Paolo ran by, Baryshnikov and Lisa slipped out the door, and Baryshnikov handed him a drink.
Exactly.
And the guy was like, have a nice day.
Cheers. See you later. Have fun. But another thing that I really enjoyed that we didn't talk about was there's a mother figure.
Yes.
There's a mother character in this, and it actually parallels with Lisa's contacting her own mother back in the States, assumed that she has this overbearing or at least caring mother that really wants to keep tabs on her. Well, there is the actress who is playing the mother, and Baryshnikov takes her outside and gives her some notes, or wants to give her some notes, and the woman actually acts out her intentions for the character to the neighbors of the theater. And these people who are just standing on outside terraces, just watching her really like embody the character just in her explanation. And it was so cool to see these people not only get an acting role, but to show it on a stage. Even, like all the world's a stage almost. You know,
exactly.
that was kind of cool.
Well, and what was so cool about that is because not only, and just to clarify and directly hit at what you're saying, not only do we see Baryshnikov, I thought this was a cool moment because Baryshnikov was like, all right, you convinced me. I'm not going to give you the notes that I was going to give you. And then the other half of that is we really got a beautiful look into the mother, like Lisa's real life mom. Like it was just another nice parallel.
Yes.
And actually, so I think that's one of the things I'll take is shooting things in parallel like that.
Yeah.
I thought that was really interesting. If you can get Baryshnikov to dance, just fucking show that the whole time.
God.
Shoot in Italy.
Yeah,
I think is a big one.
Absolutely.
It's cheaper. Another thing I'd like to steal is the lack of subtitles for Paolo.
Yeah,
because I thought that created a really interesting barrier. I think if we would have known what he was saying, even if she didn't, we would have not been sort of in her shoes. And it gets actually to a point where Paolo has to bring a translator so he could talk to Lisa.
And just to invite her to
a party.
The party,
which was such a cool little moment. That was one of the first times where I was like, oh, I know what he's saying. So, yeah.
I also think that we should steal, because of all the parallels, and this has to be not unintentional, the mirror shot in that scene where they are choreographing the
100%.
Dance. I mean, it's parallel. It's showing them in the mirror and everybody else in another mirror, and then people in the foreground. I mean, if you're going to tell a story that is mirroring itself, use fucking mirrors. You're a dance. Mirror on the wall.
Oh my god.
Thank you, Tarsem.
That was
It was a really cool experience.
I feel like there's a lot to steal from this movie.
Yeah, there really is.
And actually, too, we don't give the Go-Go Boys credit for it. And to be clear, this is directly in the middle of the Go-Go Boys years.
Yeah.
It's actually just
nearing the end, but still strong.
Another thing we should steal, too, by the way, before I even say this point, always put in a T-shirt for another movie you've made.
Yes, of course.
That's something we definitely have to do. No, but, the Go-Go Boys did enjoy their high art because we do have a Franco Zeffirelli version of Otello, an opera coming up.
Yes.
We're going to do that fairly soon. They were capturing, Baryshnikov's final performances of Giselle. So this is a thing that they did where they appreciated high art and went ahead and tried to capture said high art.
Indeed.
So I think that's great. I think that's, in some ways, if you can steal that and use that to your advantage, you should.
Yeah. I mean, even if you don't necessarily understand it completely, find a guy like Herbert Ross who does, clearly.
Hire Herbert Ross is another thing.
Yeah.
Although, he's dead. He died in 2001, so it's not like that's a possibility.
Yeah.
But, that's a whole other story.
Clone Herbert Ross.
Clone Herbert Ross.
Yep, there you go.
And then go ahead and use Herbert Ross as your director, so...
Well, I am honestly pleasantly surprised. This has been a great day.
This has been a great podcast. Day. Yeah. Please, I implore you to seek out dancers.
It's currently on Amazon Prime for
$3, I think,
$3 or $4 to rent.
Whatever. Yeah, it's not too bad. I don't think there's a DVD or Blu-ray release.
Okay.
So,
well,
but
you can't have it on the home video, but. Yes, please watch it.
This movie was kind of a bomb at the box office. It only made $1.19 million worldwide.
Wow.
Worldwide.
Damn.
Which is really an unfortunate thing.
Do we know if what the Giselle documentation made at all? Or was that more successful?
Oh,
possibly?
I don't think there was a Giselle documentation. I think this was the Giselle documentation. Really? I don't think it was its own separate thing.
Damn, I think they should have.
Yeah,
they should just release that on a DVD.
Yeah, that would be nice.
I would watch that.
I would too.
Honestly.
All right,
Nick, what's next week?
Oh, next week, AJ, I have a treat for you.
Is it?
Yeah, it is, actually. Well, I mean, I do need to know.
Okay.
Before I tell you or the listeners what the next movie is.
Indeed.
Can you keep a secret?
I think I can.
Okay, because
Yeah.
what's coming up
Uh-huh.
is 1989's classic film.
Oh.
Starring David Mendenhall, a fucking canon all-star and over the top and going bananas.
Uh-huh.
We have The Secret of the Ice Cave.
Ooh. So we're going to the Arctic.
That's what I would assume from the cover and the actual film.
Excellent.
Which you can watch on Amazon Prime. It's free.
Check it out before
as
next
of recording.
episode. Yeah.
Yeah, so there we go.
Neato.
We'll see you next week for that.
I'm excited.
Me too.
Snow days.
Snow days.
Ah.
Oh, there's snow days like
No days.
Let me try it again. There's no days like snow days.
All right. There you go. Next week.
Next week.
All right. Sounds great. I'm excited about that movie to watch. Nick, I would love to know where we can follow you on the line.
On the Line,
Yeah.
which is a Lance Bass movie.
Available for purchase on Amazon.com. DVDs, $61.57. VHS tapes, $2.95.
You can follow me on nicholascpappas.com.
Okay. Neat.
Which is the website that will forever be under construction.
Under construction.
It's the opposite of the Space Jam website, which was built and is still running from the time the movie came out.
That's pretty cool. Go check out Space
It
Jam.
is nuts. But you know,
Built on GeoCities.
yes, but this is the other thing where it will never be finished.
That's fine.
Or you can follow me on Twitter at nicholascpappas.
Okay, fantastic. You can follow me at the AJ Hamilton on Twitter and Instagram, and you can go to my website, theajhamilton.com. And if you want to follow us, we're at Creating Canon, that's CANNON, and you can email us, creatingcanon@gmail.com. And as we always say, Nicholas,
Good night and good cannon.
does any of it work? Is there a
Yes.
trailer?
It actually works.
Oh,
it all
that's
works.
Awesome.
It actually hurts the eye. Look, this is
Space
my
Jam
favorite.
is awesome.
Over the top. Over the top, baby. Or title credit card. Credit card? Let me try that again.
Yep. Nobody cheers for you. That was mean.
What is your obsession with my balls, sir? I got them golden nuggets. Those Gibson nugs.
Gibson Nugs. There it is.
I'm gonna take you all down to the Tallahassee Trail.
They're right behind those golden nugs. I didn't hear a monkey butler.
Excuse me, monkey. Do me a favor and bring me a coffee.
Enjoy that, editor. Idiot. How many monkey butlers, though? One at first, and then he'll train the others. Now, the nice thing is, I can see it coming.
That's what
The-
she said.
The way...
Pop is sexist.
I'm not that innocent. Go ahead.
Innocence. Innocence.
Hot take.
Be careful with this one. It bites. Mr. Tyson.
Oh, yeah?
I blew the mic. Who?
I can't remember his name.
I don't know either.
Kevin,
but
maybe?
It sounded more like Steve Martin in Three Amigos, where he's like, "Look a beer, look a beer, look a beer." That's my safe word. Bow bow.
No, Harrison Ford.
Chicka chicka.
Welcome to Creating Canon with your hosts. I mean, Tide Pods and now this?
Do your dance in your pants at the Space Jam. All right.
All right.
All right, you recorded that. Good, I'm glad.